Hello there. We're going to do a little bit of spiral wedging. When you are trying to wedge, oh, of course, Neil. This is Neil. Neil Diamond, the rock star, is graced us with our presence, and he just needed to contribute a little bit of cat hair into the clay. That's the secret sauce of spiral wedging. Just kidding. Let's let's talk about the spiral wedging. So generally people are taught in North America to do ram's head kneading or wedging, and it works wonderfully for most things. At a certain point, when you want to start making bigger pots, your wrist just can't take it. And so it's nice to be able to know how to spiral wedge. It is a difficult thing to teach. I have asked a few of my friends that are teachers that they have a hard time teaching it. It's hard to learn, to coordinate. I found it very difficult as a student to figure it out. It took me a little while. What I would say is just to start, try a smaller amount that you'd be comfortable with, regular wedging, like 3 or 4 pounds. That's not too hard. And every time you go to do your ram's head kneading, before you do that, try the spiral, and then eventually you'll get it. But it's a wonderful technique for larger amounts of clay. So this is 6 pounds. I can spiral wedge 10 pounds. You're dividing and conquering the clay. So you're only using part of it. And Neil's getting a little annoyed because I'm talking, ignoring him. So hopefully he doesn't bite me. He's diva. So it's difficult to roll a square block. So often what I'll do is round off the corners a little bit and find a nice place for my hand. So hand placement, just a minute, gotta move the cat. Hand placement. So you want to think of your hand as in 2 planes when you bend it. So it goes straight and this way. So it's a nice corner. So you want to find a nice corner. So there's a good corner to start. My hand just kind of fits the flat of my hand, and my fingers fit that corner. Okay. So this is my right hand. So I push with still the fleshy part of my heel of my hand. And what I'm going to do is push forward, but then I'm also going to push to the right. If you're left-handed, you might do it reversed. This is how I do it. So I push down and to the right. So it's kind of like a curve. To kind of guide it, I take my left hand and put it on top. And essentially, you can see all the other clay behind my hand. I'm not pushing this around. I'm just pushing this top half around. So I'm going to brace my hands. So again, that's making another corner, and push forward and turn. When it doesn't look like much yet, but this is what's hard about it, is to get it started. So I'm going to spin it around and put it up on a little point, reposition my hands, same way, push forward and away. And then see, I'm starting to get a little point. I'm going to balance on that point and then position my hand, push forward and away. Bring it back up to that little point, hold it in your hand, push it away. So show you what it looks like. So eventually, what it starts to look like, you get a spiral, like a seashell. And when you do that, you can see with the shadow, there's always that nice surface where it hit the table, here and here. Do you kind of see that? The shadow might be able to show right along here. Flat of the hand, other flat of the hand. So you want to keep that corner. And then the top here, put your hand over like that. And again, we're going to pivot on that little corner. So think of it as like a seashell, with the tail of the seashell always coming back to rest on the tail. Like that. and it rotates. So every time I do that, it's basically spinning on the tail. So I'm bringing it up on that little tail, pushing it down and to the right. But what I'm doing is I'm only pushing this chunk around. This is kind of just following along and spinning and winding around this lug. So it's not that it's not still a fair amount of clay. That's probably about 4 pounds. But the other part I'm not necessarily having to push on. So hopefully that makes a little bit of a sense. Sometimes it's good to understand the process. It makes it easier to kind of figure out. But you get a bit of a rhythm to it, like ram's head kneading. You just have to remember to keep pivoting it and bringing it back up onto the point and making sure that your hand flat and on the top and spin it. So down and around, down and around, and reposition your hand every time. It doesn't, when you slow it down, I'm bringing it back up and repositioning, but you can kind of just let go and reposition pretty quickly so you can get a good rhythm in it. So once you've got a few wedges in, however many you can manage, hopefully 100, but you know, can't have it always. We need to tuck this tail in just like the little ram's head tail in. So I kind of put a little bit on the edge here where that point is, and I just twist, turn, turn, turn. So then I make a bit of a cone. And you can kind of see here, there is potential to catch air in there. So I usually just bang that in with the flat of my hand, try to flatten it in as opposed to folding it, catch air. And if it's too hard to suspend the ball with your hand, if you're not strong enough, you can always do that on the table. You know, turn it, you do 2 hands at once. But I keep it in that cone shape before I put it on the wheel, so I know which way to put it on. So like ram's head, I've spiraled that. I really don't want to put it sideways because it'll compete with the spiral that's in the clay platelets. So tippy point like this. You could even put it that way. That's probably okay. I generally do bottom side, the heavier side down, but I don't think it really matters. You can experiment and see if it really matters to you, if it fights you, but I'm not usually having an issue with putting the bottom side down. But I keep that nice and rounded so that when it hits the wheel, it'll flay out and hold on really nicely. So just be patient with yourself. Don't give up. Just keep doing it. Every time you wedge, just give it a shot, and eventually you'll get it. And it is worth it because once you want to start getting a bit bigger, it's a whole lot easier. And it's a much nicer technique. It's just that it's a little harder to kind of manage. Well, happy spiraling. Bye-bye.